Monday, March 10, 2014, 7:05 a.m. It's a bit of a cliché, isn't it? The old watching someone sleep? That's not what I'm doing. I mean, it's fun for half a minute, but then you stop because it gets kind of boring. No, I'm not lying here watching Justine sleep. I'm listening to her sleep. Okay, I still have a look every now and again. So why am I listening? Because I love the way she sounds. Kylie snores like a chainsaw, or at the very best, rasps. She tosses and turns. I've mentioned before that she seizes more territory than Hitler on a blitzkrieg. Justine is the polar opposite. She lies peacefully, mostly on her side, either nestled in the crook of my arm or turned away from me. In both cases, there isn't much to watch, really. In the first, she's too close, and in the second, well, there are only so many times you could admire the generous curve of her waist to her hip. After a while, you go back to staring at the ceiling. No, it's her breathing that captivates me. I've got my eyes closed and I'm focused on it, like some sort of whispered, half-heard cone. It matches her stillness. When I do look at her, only the barely perceptible rise and fall of her chest tells me she's even alive. As you can guess, I have, unlike Justine, spent the night half awake. Even when I've managed to doze off, my slumbers only lasted to the next turnover. Then the happy realization of where I am has kicked in, and I've experienced a surge in both endorphins and adrenaline, both of which have rendered me wide awake again. I have also been surprised at how Justine has occasionally moulded her body to mine, putting her arm around my chest in a tight embrace. Kylie would have flung an arm in attack, and otherwise pushed me to the edge of the bed. People say that alcohol reveals your true nature. I'm thinking that sleep does. I open my eyes to see that daylight is breaking. Justine has her back to me, but I hear her sigh, and she turns over. Now there's enough of that milky light filtering in through the window for me to see detail. Her hair is scattered around the pillow. I see one or two grey strands. I'm also noticing a slight frown etched between her eyebrows. Her dreams obviously aren't as peaceful as I had imagined. Then there are the fine lines around her eyes and in her cheeks. And her nose is a bit skew, something I hadn't noticed before. It all reminds me of her front teeth, which, as I observed last night, overlap slightly. Imperfection has never been more perfect. She's starting to stir, and I close my eyes in pretense of sleep. I don't want to be that sleep-watching stalker cliché. As I do so, I feel her reaching for my hand, squeezing it gently, then interlinking her fingers in mine. I resolve to lie here, motionless, for as long as I can. 7:45 a.m. I hear the toasts popping up and see Tsar putting them onto a plate and taking them to the table. He's already set the plates and bowls, and puts out the butter, jam, milk, and cereal. I'm at the kettle, which is on the stove, whistling. I take it off and listen to the gurgling sound as I pour water into mugs through a cloud of steam. After I lower the kettle back onto the stove, I feel arms closing around me from behind, a body being pressed tightly against mine, a cheek against my neck, the warm smell of sleep. Is all she says. Good morning. I turn around and kiss her. I feel her hands gently grabbing my face. Oi, you two, get a room! And she hears this, Justine guffaws and walks over to Tsar, giving him a peck on the forehead. Hey there, little brother. Good to see you're getting along anyway, Tsar mumbles. Justine grabs a piece of toast and starts buttering it. So what's on the agenda today, boys? I gather Yoda is done and dusted? Yes, I've got some more mixing and editing to do, but that'll keep, I reply, jiggling the tea bags. We started another song yesterday. Tsar and I chose it out of the catalogue as one that might allow some genre variations. Which song is that? Justine asks with a mouthful, wiping butter from the side of her face. I'm bringing the tea to the table. It's currently just an instrumental, I reply. The one we call Chasing the Devil, adds Tsar. Oh, Justine scrunches up her nose. Why pick that one? Dan liked it. Dan, whatever were you thinking? She laughs and covers her mouth. Sorry, Zar, she adds, touching his arm. He turns up one corner of his lips, Shelley style. I find it interesting because it's one of the only ones that isn't the usual pop-punk. It's retro rock, explains Zar. That's right, kind of late 70s, circa Boston, with a harder edge. But I'm hearing some other sounds, and a melody line that will go over the song. I spent some time during a break yesterday writing up some lyrics, which Zar seems to like, so we'll try it out today. The backup vocals are easy, so there isn't much to it. Still retro rock, though, says Zar. Still retro rock, but once we've done that, I'd like to do some alternative mixes. Same time signature, tempo, everything, but different arrangement. While I'm thinking of it, Zar, can you ring Silvio and make sure he brings his brass instruments today? You're kidding, right? Nope. You sure you know what you're doing? Trust me, if it doesn't work out, we can always ditch it. You did say Fungus Records want variation, didn't you? Zar sighs and does the other Shelley thing of looking up and cross-eyed at the same time. Whatever you say, boss. I guess I'll go call him now. He picks up his tea and heads to the landline, grabbing a toast as he goes. I'm pulling up a chair next to Justine just as the doorbell rings. Who the hell could that be? Justine checks her watch. I can see it's only 7:56 a.m. Far too early for visitors on a public holiday. Christ, I'm not even dressed, she says, looking down at her silk nightie. She looks at Zar, who is speaking on the phone in the corridor. He just shrugs his shoulders and points to the receiver. Then Justine looks at me. I'm in the borrowed too small shorts and T-shirt again. Oh, for God's sake, she exclaims with a smile, and heads for the corridor. What's a bet? Jehovah's Witnesses? I'm thinking it's your neighbours, telling you to keep the bedroom noise down at night. Ha ha, very funny. He disappears into her bedroom, returning a second later with a bathroom robe, which she dons. The doorbell rings again. Coming! She has quite a pair of lungs, this girl. There's a bit of fumbling with the keys at the door, which she then opens. I hear a low murmur of voices. Then I hear the screen door unlocking and the front door closing. Justine has gone outside. Maybe it was the neighbour after all. 8:01 a.m. It's been a few minutes now and Justine is still not back. Zar returns from the phone. Yep, organised. Although I still don't know what the fuck we're going to do with trumpets and trombones. Trust me. Who is at the door? Dunno, your sister is still out there talking to someone. That's a bit strange. Abruptly we hear a raised voice. It is a man's. Zar and I look at each other and head for the door. As we approach, the shouting increases. Came to say I'm sorry. Can't you understand that? I'll even put that stupid queer back on the payroll if you want. Is that what you want? Look, I'll ring Jennifer right now, okay? Here. Take this. Zar opens the door. Looking over his shoulder, I confirm that it's Ian. He's carrying a bouquet of flowers and a tray of pastries. I imagine he was planning a surprise. Right now he's trying to hand the flowers to Justine so that he can reach for his phone, but she's stepping backwards and shaking her head. I don't want the fucking flowers, Ian. I just want you to leave. I said I am sorry. And I told you I don't care. Ian puts the tray and the flowers on the ground, extends his arms outward and lowers his voice. Come on, baby. He's flicking his fingers towards himself. Give me a hug. You look adorable, all mussed up and everything. He's still walking towards her, and she's walking back. Abruptly, Ian reaches out and grabs her by the forearms and then pulls her towards him. She stiffens and struggles. Before I know it, I've flown out of the door and thrown myself at Ian in a rugby tackle. We land with our heads in the mulch between two foxtail palms. I feel the full weight of the fall on my left kidney, and the air gets pushed out of my lungs explosively. Ian lands rather more easily, largely on top of me, because I was pulling and turning at the time of the tackle. It's been too long since I played rugby, and the surface was never half concrete, half wood chip mulch in the garden bed. Ian scrambles to his feet, and I do the same. I'm conscious that I look ridiculous in the too small shorts and T-shirt. He regards me with shock for a moment, then bursts into laughter. What the fuck do we have here? He looks at Justine in exasperation. Don't tell me you've stooped this low. You told me yourself he's Walter fucking Mitty. For God's sake, I simply can't believe it. He's shaking his head, looking up to the sky and down at his feet. You little whore. Running out of options, eh? Oi, that's enough of that. I'm trying to sound tough. He looks at me, with his face all twisted up like Robert De Niro. What are you trying to do, mister? I can't make it through half an hour of basketball. Act like a man? You're pathetic. Even more so for making a play for this hooker when I told you not to. Do you think you've got enough money to keep her happy, eh? Do you? I fly at him again, but this time he easily negates my tackle with a step back and an underhook, which he uses to drive me into the concrete. Luckily, I used my rugby experience to turn the dive into a roll at the last second. I smack my shoulder a bit, but otherwise I'm okay. But no sooner have I recovered than I'm being hoisted to my feet and grabbed by the too small t-shirt, which rips. I feel Ian's fingers digging into my skin instead. Then I feel myself being thrown against the colorbond fence between the palm trees. I'm pretty sure I've left a dent. The force is that strong. I am now well and truly winded, and I slump, sliding down the fence. Meanwhile, Ian is advancing. Before he can reach me, Justine and Zar have both jumped on him, one on either side. Their combined weight brings him to his knees, and he angrily shakes them off. I scramble to my feet as he's doing this, and get ready to run. Justine and Zar have both gotten to their feet too. Justine runs in front of me. What's the matter with you, Djurdjevic? Need a girl to protect you, eh? You're not a man, you're a miserable worm. Takes a menacing half-step towards us and stops himself. What the fuck? He waves us off, hawks up and spits on the ground. You're not worth it. You both just fucked yourselves, well and truly. Do you realize that? You're fucked. None of us respond to this. Ian sniffs, smiles manically, walks casually to the tray of pastries. At first I think he's going to pick it up and take it with him, but he kicks it with such force and ferocity that it practically explodes, showering the driveway and potted succulents with flakes of pastry, powdered sugar and shards of almond. The cardboard tray goes flying and lands near my feet. I can see the gold lettering of the logo reads, Pierson Bakery and Fine Food. It seems an awful waste of good pastries. Ian is already walking away down the driveway. I can see his Mercedes M-Class SUV parked across the road. He pauses, turns to me and yells, Whichever way it goes, Djurdjevic. He points to himself and me. We have unfinished business, man business. You don't get violent with me without repercussions. Understand? He spits on the ground again and walks up to his car, which unlocks with a blip. Within a matter of seconds we hear the engine roaring to life and the tires squealing as he fishtails out of the narrow suburban street. 1:15 p.m. Reggae? You're kidding, right? What the fuck, man? We're not a reggae band. Zai has just identified the drum, guitar and bass lines that I've asked them to play respectively. We've already recorded Silvio's 3-part brass backing, comprising just 4 rising notes. That was reggae-styled, but without a context it was hard for the band to place. Now that I'm asking them for what is obviously reggae, the drums of course, a sparse, laid-back reggae bass line of early UB40 vintage, which I hum out, and a scratchy rhythm guitar using Seb's Fender Stratocaster, my concept is becoming apparent. I get the jazz angle we've just tried, but reggae? Seriously, dude? Zai's running his hand through his tangled hair. I think he needs to wash it. Wait till you hear it, my friend. You'll see what I mean. But we're supposed to be a punk band. Okay, here's the deal. The whole punk movement started with people who didn't know how to play music. For example, Sid Vicious couldn't play at all when he joined the Sex Pistols. Back when the Police were a punk band, Henry Padovani couldn't play for shit, although they say he can now. You know what happens to punk bands when they learn how to play? They evolve, they change. They incorporate different elements into their music. Now you guys can already play. You don't want to be playing yesterday's sound. You need to be original. I have no intention of seeing you become a reggae band or a jazz band, but I think you can and must experiment a bit. Incorporate different genres to make your own sound, your own genre. The best bands in the world defy classification. That's what you want. You don't want people to say, the People sound like Good Charlotte. You want them to say, this band here sounds like the People. Got it? Tsar listens, but is still shaking his head. Let's do it like the man says, Seb announces. Besides, we've come too far down the road to back out now. And they said variation, didn't they? I'm happy with that, guys, says Bart. Okay, Tsar sighs. Let's do it then, I cry. We'll start with the drums. Silvio, get ready to press play and record. Drop the faders on everything but the vocals and the click track. Remember, guys, same tempo, same time signature, just different style. Tsar eases into his seat, and I signal a countdown to Silvio, who is waiting at the controls. 4:54 p.m. I can see we've broken the back of a new song, Good Enough for You, and we've got 3 versions developing, a late 70s retro rock, a late-night jazz version, and a dark, moody reggae version. And there's still their original rock instrumental. By the end of the night, I'm confident we'll have achieved what should have been bloody well impossible, a 5-song EP recorded in 2 days, covering 4 completely different genres. 11:45 p.m. We're eating pizza again and sipping from beer bottles. It has taken all day, and the band has finally left. I'm with Justine in the lounge room, an open box from Cielo's on the coffee table. She is on the couch with me, her long legs draped over my lap. I'm playing an old vinyl LP on Frank's turntable, one of my favorites, the very best of Connie Francis. Curiously, I note that she and Justine have similar features. We've already heard the first record with Who's Sorry Now and Lipstick on Your Collar, and we're now onto the first side of the second record, starting with Where the Boys Are. I let the synchronicity inherent in the titles wash over me. My Ama, grandmother, loves this music, but she's from this era, I suppose. Where in the world did you get it? Comes with the house, I say, taking a bite of the pizza. You never told me who owns this place. Long story, a friend, actually an associate of Uncle Frank's. But if I get into that, we'll be here all night, and we have work tomorrow. Speaking of which, how are we going to manage it? I don't know exactly. I sigh and stretch. I guess we can both work in property. Ian can't really pin anything on us, work-wise. At least, I know I haven't been on the net all the time, and I suspect you don't go in for Facebook and that sort of thing. Justine rolls her eyes at the mention. Can't stand it. Can't bring myself to waste the time. She takes a sip of her beer. Then I guess we're okay. Ian will cool down. He'll have to get used to it, and if he doesn't, I guess we have no choice but to play it by ear. What if he goes on a rampage and tells everyone about my sordid past? You really think he'll play his one card over you just like that? He could do it in stages. Not really. Sorry to tell you, but once these things get out, they spread like wildfire. I tap on her leg to emphasize my point, and notice the scars on her knees and shins. Geez, look at you. Been through the wars, eh? Who could say that? School hockey, among other things. We have similar backgrounds, you know. I went to Hale School in Perth. Played hockey too. Didn't win any scholarships, though. Your parents could afford the fees, obviously. Nope. Dad had a bakery in a little town called Tannup. After we moved to Perth, he sold encyclopedias. Not much money in that, I'm afraid. And your mum? She used to help Dad out in the bakery. After that, she became old school, stayed at home, played bridge, Lions Club, that sort of thing. Basically, she retired. I suppose it wasn't surprising. She was a lot older by then. Mum was already in her late 40s when they had me. Dad was even older. There's a bigger age gap between Dad and Frank than there is between Frank and me. So who paid your schooling then? Uncle Frank. Wow. You know, you never speak about your parents. I only ever hear about Frank. It's like he was your whole world then. I didn't realize that when I came over to Perth that time. I mean, I knew he was your uncle, and that you were close, but it seems you had a special relationship with him. Very special until... Until what? I look at my watch. It's far too late to get into that. I promise I'll tell you tomorrow. The last word is punctuated by a kind of hiccup because Justine has jabbed me in the ribs with her big toe. I see that it's painted red, like her lipstick. I also notice a slight bunion starting, the result of narrow women's shoes, I'm sure. Not fair. You can't keep leaving me in suspense like that. Seriously, it's a long story. We had a kind of falling out. Over a girl, or should I say a woman. But that's all over now, I say, taking a swig from my bottle. You mean to say you liked the girl too? As Justine says this, I burst into laughter so that beer spurts through my nostrils. No. Frank hated her, and she hated him. Ah. Anyway, we reconciled in time, that's all that matters. And that girl? History, I say, standing up and draining my bottle. I extend a hand to her. Shall we retire? Justine swings her legs off the couch elegantly, puts her largely full bottle on the coffee table, and proceeds to lead me upstairs. Only at the top of the flight do I realize the record is playing its final track on that side. My heart has a mind of its own. Soon the stylus will just keep circling on static. Oh well, let it.